Hello everyone, welcome back to Couloir Mining Talks. Today we're joined by Greg Johnson, CEO of Metallic Minerals, an exploration stage company advancing high-grade silver, copper, and gold projects in North America. With a strategic investment from Newmont and a recent inferred resource at Keno Silver, Metallic Minerals is positioned for major growth. Greg personally brings over 35 years of experience in project development and financing, including co-founding Nova Gold. Let's dive into company's exciting exploration success and future outlook. Greg, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. So, Greg, you've had over, like I mentioned in the intro, 35 years of experience in mining, co-founding Nova Gold, leading major exploration projects. My question is, what drew you to Metallic Minerals, and what excites you most about the potential for the project?
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate to have a career that started out with the major mining companies. Started out my career with Placerdome, which is now Barrick today. Then went on to co-found Nova Gold, and then I got involved with a number of other startup companies. Part of our business model in Nova Gold, we were starting it in the bear market of the last cycle, and we grew value tremendously from a $10 million market cap to over $2 billion. And when we started into this bear market in 2016, that was the genesis for the Metallic group of companies, including Metallic Minerals, to say, here we are in a bear market again. This is a great opportunity where junior companies can go after high quality assets. Our focus is assets of scale, things that are measured in kilometers, have the kind of concentration of metals that will be potentially economic, and that a major mining company would be interested in. So using a geologic model of something that's going to be big enough and interesting enough that it's going to be the kind of thing that a major mining company would like to get involved in down the road. And so applying our exploration expertise to do that. So over the last several years, we've been able to successfully raise capital, even in a challenging market that we've been through here. I don't think any of us would have thought that in 2016, for instance, that it'd be 8 more years of this kind of sideways, movement in the juniors. But here we are. Gold is going to all-time, record highs here recently. Silver looks like it wants to catch up. Base metals are looking good. The large caps, mid caps are moving, and the venture looks ready to perhaps break out and move along. So I think the excitement for us is a portfolio of projects, a new resource at Keno, as you mentioned, from 2024, a resource that we tabled originally in 2022 and grew it in 2023 at La Plata, and an upcoming resource soon. And I think a market that's looking like a terrific value opportunity for investors today.
You mentioned Metallic Group of Companies. For people who are not familiar with that, do you mind explaining what that stands for?
You bet. We've got 3 companies in the group. The idea is to share back office support, keep our admin costs low, more money in the ground, drilling holes, less money to run the companies. And so Metallic Minerals, Stillwater Critical Minerals with an asset in Montana, which is platinum, palladium metals plus battery metals, and then Granite Creek Copper, which is in central Yukon with a high-grade open pit copper resource. So those 3 companies sharing back office, sharing technical support, keeping those costs low, and all are taking the same kind of approach: acquire assets during the lows, advance them through resource growth and de-risking to feasibility, and eventually looking to partner with a larger company to take these things into production.
Great. And as far as Metallic Minerals is concerned, it focuses on proven tier 1 asset potential. What sets your approach apart from other junior mining exploration companies?
I think it's really that background of the team. So this is a team that has a track record of multiple large-scale deposits that we've discovered and advanced. Donlin Creek, which is a 40 million ounce gold deposit, now 50-50 joint ventured with Nova Gold and Barrick. The Couloir Creek asset, over 12 billion pounds of copper in the ground. That's now 50-50 Newmont and Teck. So these are examples of projects that we got involved in early, grew them massively, and then eventually took them to feasibility, and now majors are taking them forward. And so that model that we're applying at the Metallic Group, specifically Metallic Minerals, applies in that La Plata is very similar to Couloir Creek. We see the potential for this to be a world-class copper plus precious metal porphyry system that Newmont has taken a strategic investment on. Likewise at Keno, even though it's a smaller resource today, Hecla is now the operator in that district, and we see the potential for Keno to be a 1 billion-ounce silver district in terms of its exploration potential and upside. So these are both world-class potential in terms of the two deposits that are our flagship, that basically we are advancing and growing today.
And yeah, just to talk more about your projects, including your flagship project, the company has three major projects: La Plata, which is the copper and silver down in Colorado. You have the Keno Hill Silver and the Klondike, which is the gold royalty side of business.
Exactly.
Can you give us an overview of how these assets complement each other and ultimately drive shareholder value?
You bet. La Plata is the largest in terms of metal in the ground resource, still at that early growth stage. So it's a porphyry system, copper, silver, plus other precious metals. We're working towards growing that resource and look to publish one in Q1 of this year in terms of an updated resource. Really, this is a potential system like Galore that we think has the potential to be a world-class tier one asset. What does tier one mean? People use that term all the time. The big mining companies, when they say a tier one asset, are looking for something that's a top 10, top 20 mine in the world. So it's a high hurdle rate, but that's why Newmont is invested.
But what classifies it as a tier one?
Cash flow generation, the scale of production, let's say 1 million ounce a year if you're a gold producer. So really some of the biggest mines in the world, the highest quality, the most cash flow generation. That's what is typically called a tier one. So at our Keno asset, again, the scale of the system, it's one of the world's highest grade silver districts already. Hecla's taken it back into production. That's what really makes that stand out, that we've got the other half of the district that's much less explored. And then the third asset, our Klondike gold royalty. This is a bit unusual for a exploration stage company, but we've got cash flow and production. We go out and acquire the claims, get the permits, and then we attract large, experienced operators to come in, do the mining, and pay us a royalty that ranges anywhere from 10 to 15% of the gold produced. So in 2023, Parker Schnabel from Gold Rush was mining on our Australia Creek ground near Dawson City, Yukon. So for those who were watching the show, that season, that was the Boomerang Pit. We've got another operator that's advancing on a second lease there on that ground, and we see potential for up to 10 operators there. So what's unusual about that is that means potential for us to grow cash flow and actual gold production in our company over the next couple of years. Not huge numbers, but these are important in terms of being able to cover some of our G&A costs, and even potentially as we grow that to cover some of our exploration costs on our big projects that we see the potential to be, billion-dollar assets.
Okay, so as far as your flagship project is concerned, your La Plata project in Colorado, which has seen impressive drill results, including 816 meters of 0.41 copper equivalent. What does this tell us about the scale of the porphyry system? And for people who are not very technical, what does a porphyry system even mean?
Yeah, so a porphyry deposit is a type of intrusion, and literally the term means you've got two textures of rock, very fine-grained rock and coarse-grained rock. And what does that tell us as a geologist? I'm a geologist by training. That tells us that that rock had a complex history where for a while it cooled very deeply, and then it quickly got brought to surface and it quenched those crystals. And that's a sign of an active tectonic environment, an active structural environment. And what we see in systems like La Plata, that type of porphyry, it's on the continuum from copper only to copper plus precious metals. And some of those are the biggest deposits, biggest cash flow producers for the majors. So those high precious metal porphyry systems, they tend to fall along these major structures, and they tend to be very vertically extensive. And there tends to be multiple or clusters of these type of deposits. In Newmont taking their investment in metallic minerals related to La Plata, they saw close similarities with their flagship Cadia mine in Australia, which is one of the best copper, gold, silver systems in the world.
Similarities in terms of those vertical structures here?
Those vertical intrusive structures where you see them one after another. And so the way they look at this model is they see at La Plata, we found the first one. We know there's a structural corridor. And so now our challenge is to take those early stage targets that we've developed on the surface and to test those, because we may find multiple porphyries. And more than likely, based on experience in similar systems, we will find multiple systems. So one of the things that we worked on in 2024, in addition to releasing the drill results that were funded by Newmont earlier in the year, which again demonstrated starting at surface, hundreds of meters of continuous mineralization in copper, silver, plus gold, platinum, and palladium, is that these other targets that are on the property, and we're the first to have consolidated the entire district at La Plata, that these other targets actually have surface signatures as strong as the Allard area where our current resource is. And so trying to advance those to a drill ready stage this year in order to be able to drill test those additional priority targets in 2025, along with the drill testing to continue to grow the Allard resource area is real priority for us.
Perfect. And as far as the gold royalties part of your business is concerned, tell us about how the alluvial royalties can generate future revenue for Metallic Minerals.
So we've already got the one operator that's on the ground now. We've got licenses for 2 additional areas adjacent to that that are already permitted. So we're in discussions with new operators to take those on. And then we've applied for the permits upstream from that area. This is really the future growth area that we've staked and control. And so potentially adding more operators over time. You know, it's going to take time to build this up, but this last year was a big pre-stripping period. So they put the roads in, they did the stripping. So our operator this year on the alluvials is going to be able to come right in early in the spring and start mining. So this could be one of our biggest royalty years yet. And our hope is that we can attract 1 or 2 new operators as well to be able to grow that production profile out over time.
Of course. And as far as your Keno Hill silver project is concerned, it recently announced an inaugural inferred resource of 18.16 million silver equivalent. How does this compare to historic production at Keno Hill District, and where do you see the most potential for resource expansion?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we've consolidated the district adjacent to Hecla. So Hecla is on that western end of the district. That's where most of the historic production, over 200 million ounces of high-grade silver produced on the western side. Hecla now has a resource of about 130 million ounces, and they're continuing to chase those deposits deeper. Our ground is on the same geologic continuation of those same structures that host the high-grade silver, but it's much less explored. So we've consolidated over 40 different parcels into our land holdings at Keno. So this is the eastern extension to the district. And we've been exploring those. We identified a number of priority targets. We've drilled about 20 of those targets. 4 of those have become resources. So incrementally we're adding. They're all very shallow. Several of these are open pit targets. So that means lower cost. And so we're going to be able to, we believe, have a buildup over time that reflects that, you know, potential that's been seen historically in the district. And we've got the right address to be doing that in terms of high-grade silver already found, high-grade silver even produced on many of our systems. So we're quite confident that we can continue to grow that resource larger than the current 18 million ounces.
And you've mentioned Newmont and Hecla quite a few times. So let's talk about your strategic investments. You know, you've gotten those majors interested, and how do these partnerships validate your projects and support their development?
Well, first of all, I would state it's unusual to see a major investing in a junior at such an early stage. I would say most majors get involved when projects get to the feasibility stage and have been de-risked. So it's a real statement of the potential that they see when you see a major come in early. You know, clearly Newmont believes, and they're taking their investment in Metallic, and this is really focused at La Plata, that this is an asset that has the potential to be of the size that they're looking for. And they really liked the team's experience. In addition to have acquired this ground, already created a resource and grown it, they saw the experience the team had at Galore Creek and taking that from an early stage copper gold resource to a feasibility stage as having the right understanding and be able to actually maximize the value on this. And so that's why they selected to invest in the company. So they put $6.5 million in 2023. That funded our last round of drilling, plus funded this high priority surface work.
So we're talking about Newmont.
Newmont.
Okay.
Yep. And that work included them sending some of their top mapping geologists from their mines at Red Cliff, Chris, down to map with our team and to help with that prioritization work. It's included giving us access to their geophysical team, their permitting team. So it's really been a fantastic supporting partnership with them. And we would expect them to continue to invest. In 2024, they took 2 top-up investments directed at La Plata as well. At Keno, Hecla is the operator in the district. They own the mine that sits in the center of the district, and our properties are largely on the eastern side, but some of them are in holdings. And so it really is a logical thing for us to be having discussions with Hecla about maximizing the value of our land and how it might contribute to their production in the future. At
Mm-hmm.
this point, they haven't taken a direct equity investment in the company, but
Mm-hmm.
there's clearly discussions about how do we really maximize value and how our land might fit in with their longer term objectives at Keno Hill, which is their highest grade producing silver mine in their portfolio.
Of course. Let's talk a bit more about the team that makes Metallic Minerals. Personally, you've raised over 650 million in project financing throughout your career. How has that experience shaped your approach to capital markets? And if you can also touch upon other members of your board at Metallic Minerals.
Yeah, you bet. So particularly in terms of, let's talk about the board a little bit. We've got a board that has great depth of experience in all kind of elements of the mining space. Our most recent board addition is Steve Enders, who is the former head of exploration for Newmont. And before that, he was head of exploration for Freeport-McMoRan. So this is a guy who really understands the exploration business. Peter Harris was one of the top mine builders for Placer Dome. So he comes in as a mining engineer, mine operator.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Doug Workington, who is a process engineer. So when we are looking at how to recover the metals, he's a guy that has that depth of experience. And then Gregor Hamilton comes in with investment banking experience as an exploration geologist and a creator of small companies that have been taken out. So we really got a great mix of experience and expertise on the board. And at the management team, myself and others were part of the original founding at NovaGold. So in the last cycle, taking that company from a small cap company to over $1 billion market capitalization based on discovery and growth of resources at both Donlin and Galore. This is a team that really has been through that. The challenge for our sector, for juniors up till today, really has been very challenging market conditions. But as I mentioned, at the beginning, we're seeing things turn for the venture. We're seeing this downtrend that's been in place since 2011, which has already been broken by the large cap, the GDX and GDXJ, large cap and mid cap precious metal indices. The venture is knocking on the door of breaking that. So I think we're perhaps at the early days of a cycle that could be very similar to the last cycle. And that's going to be really helpful in terms of for smaller companies at the resource stage and development stage to be able to raise capital in advance. And I think that's going to be an important part of our story. And because we've done it before, we're confident that we know how to raise that capital, how to get in front of investors, tell the story. It's kind of the third leg to the stool. You got to have a great project, you got to have a great team, and you got to know how to talk with the market and talk with Wall Street.
Of course. And yeah, just to touch upon your flagship project once again, as La Plata advances towards an updated resource estimate, what's the timeline on that, and what key factors do you think might be influencing that decision?
Yeah, so major milestones, I think, in terms of looking forward in 2025, updated resource at La Plata. Our anticipation is that's going to grow slightly, and that we're going to see a subset of that where we're going to be able to define not only copper and silver, which is what our current resource is, but that we're going to be able to add platinum, palladium, and gold, and that should increase the average grade in that area. They didn't assay historically for gold, platinum, and palladium, so that's a new addition that our work has brought. We are in the planning stages now of a program that would include expansion drilling at La Plata, as well as testing some of the new priority targets that have been co-developed with Newmont on that target. And we're also continuing our community engagement in terms of building out awareness of the project, what we're doing, and how exploration, fits in with our long-term efforts in that area. So those are key catalysts on the La Plata project. At Keno Silver, we completed a drill program last fall. Drill results will be coming out here fairly soon, so that'll be a catalyst on that project. And we're now in the current planning stages for what's going to happen at Keno. In addition, the last project, the alluvial project, the alluvial operator is planning to be drilling this winter and on the ground starting in the spring. And we're having discussions right now with additional operators to potentially bring in some new leases. So 2025 is looking to be an exciting year for Metallic Minerals from a news flow and a number of catalysts that I think are going to be important, along with the excitement I think that we're starting to see coming to the market, not just with the large caps and the metals, but in terms of potential market action as well.
Of course. Yeah, I would love to talk a bit more about the volatility and the risks aspect, which makes up our current space. Mining in Yukon and Colorado comes with jurisdictional and permitting risks, just like any other jurisdiction. How is Metallic Minerals navigating these challenges and to ensure long-term success?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, just even starting out, my experience in exploration starting early in my career was international. And
Hmm.
so we've focused metallic minerals in North American jurisdictions where mining is well understood. There's
Hmm.
very high standards both at the exploration stage as well as the mining stage. So these are jurisdictions that, yes, it can take a little longer to get your permits, but once you get a project through feasibility and
Hmm.
permitted, they tend to be able to run forever
Hmm.
without interruption. And so that's a huge factor that I'm not sure is being well priced right now in the market in terms of the
Hmm.
difference between a high risk political jurisdiction and low risk political jurisdictions. But both our assets are in areas that have long histories of mining. In the case of Keno, they've been mining for 100 years.
Hmm.
In the case of La Plata, this is a district that had production from high grade silver and gold mines all the way through the 1940s, and then exploration since the 1950s that we've
Hmm.
picked up on. And that included exploration by Rio Tinto and Freeport. So we're kind of company 5 or 6,
Hmm.
in the district, building on the work of others to get to where we are. It's also a region near La Plata that's one of the largest natural gas producers in the U.S. So it's got a lot of oil and gas exploration that's ongoing. So it's an area that understands resources, and we're confident that we'll be able to not only advance the project, but be able to take it through and demonstrate the low environmental impact for the type of
Hmm.
deposits we're looking at to bring that to production. But that's down the
Hmm.
road. We're still at the exploration stage right now.
Of course, perfect. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Johnson, for joining us for the podcast. Just one final question. What is one thing you'd like to leave with our listeners about metallic minerals?
Yeah, I think this is an exciting opportunity in the market generally, but high quality companies, particularly that are at this rapid resource growth phase, are particularly interesting.
Hmm.
So do your due diligence, but if you can identify high quality resources that are growing rapidly in safe jurisdictions and have a good team, this is really, I think, appearing to be one of those great opportunities in the marketplace. Surprisingly, the venture index is near its lows from 2020 and 2016, so a third time at this kind of level.
Hmm.
And I think this is one of those rare market opportunities for
Hmm.
good quality exploration investments
Hmm.
for investors to be looking at. And that should include a look at metallic minerals.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. That wraps up another episode of Couloir Mining Talks. A big thank you to Mr. Johnson for sharing his insights into metallic minerals and its high potential projects. Stay tuned for more conversations with industry leaders shaping the future of mining. If you're finding these conversations valuable, feel free to subscribe to our channel.